is 6:59, and I will call into open session this meeting of the Board of Trustees on January 16th, 2025. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Our board meetings are open to the public, and we welcome everyone. Thank you for participating in public education. Just a reminder that while our meetings are open to the public, this is still a meeting, and we have business to conduct. Disruptions will not be permitted, and anyone who disrupts the meeting or speaks when others are speaking may be asked to leave or be escorted out by security attending the meeting. We welcome civic input, but insist that we remain respectful and civil. Thank you for your cooperation. We'll begin with our pledges this evening. Please join Student Ejituo LA in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, at this time, we will pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. We have quite a few recognitions on our agenda tonight. And for our first item, we'll turn it over to our Chief Communications Officer, Anita Foster.
Thank you, President Chapa, members of the board, Dr. Smith. Before we introduce our student performance, I want to give one more shout out to our very special student who led us in our pledges tonight, Ejituo LA. Thank you so much. And I'll say just a few nice things about him. Don't be embarrassed or anything. It'll go really fast, okay? He is a very special student. He loves science, any kind of chicken. He literally said, any kind of chicken. And I see a family nodding right along. He loves basketball and drawing. He's very active at Peach Elementary. He serves on the student council. He's on the safety patrol, the dean's discussion panel, and he is in advanced math. I know. All of us at Arlington ISD are so proud of you. No one more than your parents and our proud principal who's with us tonight too, Aisha Ramos. We're so excited for you. We thank you for your service tonight at our school board meeting, and you keep doing all the good work. All right. Now, y'all are in for a truly amazing experience tonight. I'm going to introduce you to our student performers. If y'all want to come on up. Very good. So tonight we have our Lamar High School's top choir. This is a cappella. As choir leaders, these representatives take care of everything from teaching notes. They take the lead in sight reading music. They take care of the basic choral needs for essentially all the other kids in the choir. So they are leaders, everyone among you. The a cappella currently has 62 members, so they are very strong. And they're going to start the spring semester at Lamar High School filled with UIL competitions, all kinds of contests. And they're going to do a little traveling to the happiest place on earth. Where would that be? Oh, very good. I know we all should have brought mouse ears. So they're going to be going to Orlando, and they're going to be performing there some of the songs that they're doing this year, which includes tonight's song, Feed the Birds, from a Disney classic, Mary Poppins. So please welcome the section leaders from Lamar High School's a cappella. And they're directed by Greg Hagen, who you see here, and Meredith alums. Take it away.
Steps of St. Paul's, the
All right, thank you, Lamar Acapella. I should have said at the beginning, and just a reminder that we have the recognitions tonight. At the end of the recognitions, we'll have a brief recess, and families are welcome to stay, come up, take pictures. We'll go down and talk to folks outside, and we have a backdrop set up outside as well. Or you're welcome to also leave whenever the recognition that you're here for is complete. Our next item tonight on recognitions is item B. We have a Student of the Month, and I'll give it back over to Ms. Foster.
Yes, to introduce our Student of the Month is our proud principal from Lamar High School, the one and only Leslie Maroney.
Good evening, good evening. As Anita said, you are in for a night. It sounds like it's Lamar night. Our choir members, although they're in choir, most of them are in athletics, student leadership, JROTC, and so they're quite involved in our school. But thank you for this opportunity, President Chapa, members of the board, and Dr. Smith. It is with great honor that I announce Alondra Trujillo as the Lamar High School Student of the Month. Alondra has accomplished a lot during her time as a Viking. Recently, she was named a Dale Scholarship semifinalist and has already been offered over $180,000 in scholarships. She is involved in AVID, LULAC, and she's a member of the National Honor Society, just to name a few. She is also a TCU College Ambassador and participates within her community and her church. She is currently taking both dual credit and AP courses and has done so for many years. One of the things that sets her apart is her desire to support other Vikings in excelling as well. Alondra is one of the founding members of our Advanced Placement Ambassador organization. In this organization, the students mentor other AP students, perhaps those who are taking AP classes for the first time or contemplating exiting the program. They spend time mentoring, providing study skills and time management recommendations and supports, but they also spend time motivating those students to keep going. She has been accepted to TCU, Texas Woman's, UTA, Texas Wesleyan, UNT, Midwestern, Tarleton, ACU, and UNT Dallas. And she told me over the break she applied for a few more. And this is the most amazing part. She plans to major in education. Yes. Alondra exudes what it means to have Viking fight never dies within your blood. She helps others at Lamar do the same thing. I present to you Alondra Trujillo.
Good evening, President Chapa, Dr. Smith, and distinguished members of the board. My name is Alondra Trujillo. I'm a senior in high school, and with me today is my family, my parents, my sister. I have a lot of family, and this is just a little bit of them. Before beginning my speech, I want to thank God first and foremost because He granted me the opportunity to be here in front of you all tonight. Continuing with gratitude, I want to thank Mrs. Maroney for giving me the chance to be here and represent Lamar High School. I also want to thank my AVID teachers, Ms. Drake, Coach Busby, and Ms. Christie. These inspiring women have helped me navigate how to prepare for college and survive my senior year, which we know can be overwhelming. I also want to thank Ms. Denise from the Go Center as well as the entire Go Center team for always assisting me with anything college related. I truly appreciate everything you have done for me, Ms. Denise. I'm happy to say that my dream school, TCU, has accepted me. I hope to be a Horned Frog soon, majoring in education. My goal is to become a bilingual teacher and help elementary students bridge the gap between their English and Spanish languages, something I wish I had growing up. I know it can be hard navigating the American education system alone, but I'm so happy that through it all, God has placed certain people in my life to help guide me. I truly love this district. Arlington ISD is one of the greatest. The transition was not easy because I previously attended a charter school with only a graduating class of 10 people. And moving to a large school like Lamar was a big adjustment, but I quickly fell in love with this school. We have great teachers who are not just teachers, but take a greater role in your life that truly impacts you forever. I'm so thankful for the opportunities that Lamar High School and our district has given us. I will continue to bring awareness to these opportunities that we have for others, and hope that everyone can take full advantage of the great education system AISD provides. Writing this speech made me a bit nervous, but above all, I have pure gratitude in my heart. With Lamar, Mrs. Maroney, and all the teachers who have supported me this far, including Ms. Vaughn and Mr. Crawford, I'm incredibly thankful. Last but not least, I want to thank my parents who have always supported me. They understood how difficult this journey has been for me, and they've always been there, cheering me on and encouraging me. My parents mean everything to me, and everything I do is for them. I often tell them that when I graduate high school, it's not just me, but it's us. When I graduate college, it's not just me, it's the three of us. And when I receive my bachelor's degree with my name on it, it's not just my name, it's a reflection of our work together every day. I'm proud of how far my family and I have come, and I know there's more ahead for us. I will continue to work hard, and once again, thank you so much to my parents for picking me up when I feel like I can't go any further or when I'm overwhelmed and stressed. They are always there for me, holding my head up and reminding me that I can do it. I'm so grateful to God for blessing me with such supportive parents, and everything I do is for y'all. Thank you so much to my family and also to my siblings, Abby and Alejandra. Thank you for taking care of me. Thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for believing in me. And thank you for trusting me. Let's go Vikings.
Alondra, congratulations on being Student of the Month and on all that you've accomplished, and I know that you're going to accomplish in the future. I can't think of many better careers to start out with in education, at the top of the list of being the thing that we really need a lot of in society right now. We always do a special little recognition from the superintendent and the board, and so I'll ask the superintendent and Mr. Mike to head down now to present you with that.
I don't see many dry eyes in the audience. Alondra, we are extremely proud of you, and we're thankful for you. You exemplify what we want for our students in Arlington ISD. People can say what they want about public education, but what I just heard right now was a strong family unit and a strong school supporting an amazing young lady that is going to change the world. I immediately looked for a business card in my pocket because I was going to give you a job when you're done at TCU, and I don't have one, but I'm going to make sure you have my phone number. We are proud of you and the work that you've done at Lamar, but most importantly, we're proud of the work that you're going to do for the future. Congratulations on being our Student of the Month this month.
So I think Dr. Smith has said pretty much everything that I wanted to say. What we do on the board, it's everything for students like you. I think you epitomize exactly what AISD in this community is talking about, our future, our generations. And you're doing way better than I was as a senior. I think you're on track to be summa cum laude or something like that. I graduated laude, so that's where we're at. So, but what you're doing and even thinking about coming back to Arlington to reinvest in this community is a wonderful thing, and hopefully I see in your future. What we have is a little pin that all of the board members wear, so you can wear it anytime you see us. Wear the pin, but amazing work. Congratulations.
We got to take a picture with you real quick. Congratulations.
Okay, well, I'm going to venture into being a little bit of a ballpark announcer here, and I'd like to announce that if you have a blue Ford F-150 four-door with license plate BX35281, your lights are on. I don't know how long you plan to be here, but if you're staying for the full board meeting, you might want to go turn those lights off. We'll move on now to recognition item C, our Community Partner Award of Appreciation, and I'll turn it over to Executive Director of Engagement, Equity, and Access, Erin Prellis.
Good evening, President Chapa, Dr. Smith. Once again, so thankful to be able to say thank you to a community that blesses our students and families and staff every day. And coming out of the holidays, we have so much to be thankful for as we saw the community come, as they always do, with an outpouring of support, not only just for our students and staff, but for the entirety of Arlington. We're going to do things just a little bit different, a little expanded. We're going to celebrate 4 organizations that really came through and helped us with a very special event. And because it's 4 organizations, I need a little bit of help. And so I went to the best help I could find in Arlington, Texas. And so I'm going to ask Ms. Tilly Bergen to come up to the podium with me. And so she's going to stand with me as I share a little bit about our 4 organizations. And just prior to President response, Ms. Tilly would like to share some words as well. Community partners, when you hear your name, if you could just stand next to me to my left when you hear your name. All right. So on December 10th, 2024, 4 of our incredible community government partners, the City of Arlington, represented by Susan Schrock this evening, the City of Arlington Fire Department, represented by Lieutenant Jason Horn, the Greater Arlington Chamber of Commerce, represented by Elena Thaxton and Alicia Collins Butler, and also our media partner, CBS 11 News, Selena Hernandez, representing CBS 11. These 4 organizations came together to support our Arlington ISD Mission Joy Toy Drive, benefiting the 2024 Mission Arlington Christmas Store. This event eventually brought smiles to hundreds of children during the holiday season. Our partner groups joined by 40 Arlington ISD campuses and facilities, organized and hosted toy drive collection sites, shared the opportunity with the community, and even on the day of event, thank you CBS 11, there the whole time, and delivered the outpouring of generosity to our Mission Joy Toy Drive event. The results of their hard work was truly remarkable. We were able to collect 14, 3.5 by 3.5 boxes full of toys and gifts, and these boxes filled Mission Arlington's largest distribution truck, and also packed a second box truck full of bicycles. These donations for the Mission Arlington Christmas Store made it possible for so many children to experience the joy of a happy holiday with toys and bicycles they might not have otherwise received. Today, we are proud to recognize the City of Arlington, the City of Arlington Fire Department, the Greater Arlington Chamber of Commerce, and CBS 11 News, and we'd like to thank them for their support by sharing the Arlington ISD Community Partner Award of Appreciation. Their continued support, generosity, and commitment to making a positive impact on our community is deeply appreciated. And at this time, I'd like to share the mic with Ms. Tilly.
Well, you can imagine how I felt when I received a phone call from Aaron to say we would want to consider working our Christmas season with Mission Arlington if you guys think that's a good idea. I could hardly answer because I was so pleased. And, we prayed how best we can meet the needs in this community. And, we have a Christmas store that we give gifts out. And so then to hear the cooperation again in the community, in the school district, that's just who we are. I mean, I dare anybody to take exception to that, because I don't think there's any place anywhere that could meet the standards of care and love that comes from this city. And the school district and all of us working together on the ground floor, most of us, makes a difference. And I want to just share with you that during the Christmas store, 8,080 families, and that equaled 34,307 people, kids, got toys in this community. At 34,307, that's a lot of people on that campus, with all of us coming in and out, and just the joy of Christmas and the spirit of God's love just took us over. And so we want to do it again, right? Can we vote tonight on doing it again? Okay. That was over 4,000 bicycles also that was added to that. So I can't thank you enough. Just pray for you. You know our support for you, and we're deeply, deeply grateful for this community. Thank you.
So, President Chapa, we do have our 4 organizations here. If you'd like to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Perales. When we think of the community partners that we have here in this district, the city, the chamber, the fire department, y'all are always at the top. Mission Arlington as well. The partnerships we have are really unique here. I think Mission Arlington plays a really unique role in this city compared to how other cities work. I mean, they're located downtown, right? People know where to find them, and they serve all the needs in the community from people from all walks of life. I will at this time ask Dr. Smith to come down, and Ms. Fowler as well, to give you a little bit of a token of our appreciation. Thank you all so much.
Take a picture here. Take a picture with them. Okay.
I had to get my directions. I will do my best not to mess this up. I wanted to share real quickly one of the things. It's almost been a year since I joined this school district, and as I was doing some research last year and decided to apply for this role, one of the words that stood out to me was synergy. I came and visited the city, and I asked about the partnerships, and I asked about the school district, and what I heard was that everybody was all in for the people of Arlington, and that it was about working together to do what's best for our students, our community, and the people who live and work and play together on a regular basis in this area. So I'm honored to be a part of this, and I'm extremely grateful for us to be able to see this alignment and support, because I can promise you, partners, it doesn't happen like this in every other community. And so thank you for what you have done. Thank you for allowing us to be a partner with you, and thank you to Mission Arlington for helping to support, I think it was 33,000 students with toys, if I'm not mistaken. And we know the impact that joy can make in a family. So thank you all for what you've done for us this year. We look forward to partnering with you again.
Thank you all so much. I can only imagine how much joy was shared in those families when they had actually get to have Christmas together. So thank you so much. As Dr. Smith said, this doesn't happen everywhere. It takes special people like you to make this happen. And thank you so much.
Go ahead. Thank you. You got an awkward podium. Yep. Sorry.
We'll move on now to recognition item D, our Martin Luther King Jr. 4-day celebration and recognition of art and essay winners. I'll turn it over to Ms. Foster.
Thank you, President Chapa. We are so honored every year that we get to participate as a partner in the MLK 4-day celebration that takes place here in Arlington. Our partner is with us tonight from UT Arlington, Lisa Thompson, and she's going to come up. Come on up, Lisa. She's going to come up and tell us about those art and essay winners. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Greetings, President Chapa, Dr. Smith, and members of the board. I am Lisa Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of the TRIO Pre-College Programs at the University of Texas, Arlington, and I represent UTA on the Arlington Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Committee, Incorporated. And also, I serve as this year's chair of the 2025 Advancing the Dream 4-day celebration, which is the reason for my attendance tonight. Since 1989, the Arlington Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Committee 4-day celebration committee members have planned and organized a holiday weekend of activities to honor the life and legacy of Dr. King. This year's theme is Advancing the Dream, choosing connection over division. Dr. King stated, "We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools." This quote symbolizes unity, compassion, and inclusiveness, and serves as a call to action, encouraging us to bridge the gaps between races, religions, genders, and social economic classes. Each year, the committee has the pleasure of receiving art and essay applications that speak to the theme of our annual celebrations. We received over 400 outstanding art submissions and a great number of inspirational essay submissions that help us with the interpretation of this year's theme. Tonight, we would like to honor the first, second, and third place winners of the art and essay competitions. Beginning with art winners, first place. And I'm going to show you the first place winning art. Uh-oh, sorry about that. And I'd like to ask Drake Daniel to come at this time, the artist. Drake is a 10th grade student from Lamar High School, and he's going to receive a $1,000 scholarship. Our second place winner is not with us tonight. Her name is Fatina Nguyen, and Fatina is a 9th grade student at Juan Seguin High School, and she will receive a $750 scholarship. And our third place winner is Nevaeh Renge. She is a 9th grade student at Juan Seguin High School, and she will receive a $500 scholarship. I'm going to ask that they two stay right there. I'm going to also announce our essay winners. First place is Dilly Ogarinde. He is a senior at Arlington Collegiate High School, and he is receiving a $1,000 scholarship. Our second place winner is Audrey Sia. She is a senior at Juan Seguin High School, and she's receiving a $750 scholarship. And our third place winner is Evan Gerstenkorn. He is from James Martin High School, a senior, and is receiving a $500 scholarship. I asked the committee to come tonight. Some of them were not able to be with us, but today we do have Lisa Fields, the essay coordinator, Lynn Nguyen, our art coordinator, Aaron Perales, board member, Nita Halliburton, board member. And Barbara Keaton, our youth extravaganza chair. Back to my notes. So at this time, we'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here. We want to thank you all as a sponsor for allowing this celebration to continue these 36 years that we've had it. We also want to invite you to come to the 4-day celebration that begins tomorrow night with the gala. And we have flyers that we will pass out to you all, as well as leave them in the back for anyone who might want to learn more about the 4-day celebration. We hope that you will join us and help us to ensure that Dr. King's words continue to serve as a powerful reminder that our individual actions hold the power to shape the world we live in. Enjoy your weekend, and let's choose connection over division. Thank you. We weren't sure of sizes, so we got everybody small t-shirts. No, just kidding. But we do have sizes, and if the size that you receive is not the size that is appropriate for you, just let us know, and we'll make sure that you get the correct size. So thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Congratulations to our art and essay winners. And do pick up a flyer on the 4-day weekend. Arlington has the largest MLK Day celebration in the state. It is a 4-day festival that starts out tomorrow night with a gala at UTA. If you're into a step team, there's a great step show at Bowie High School on Saturday morning. There's also events at UTA again on Saturday night. There's a story hour and I believe a jazz and poetry contest or show off. And then on Sunday, there's the Hubert Moss Ecumenical Service at the Greater Community Baptist Church. And on Monday is the Zeb Strong Day of Service. And then we'll close out Monday night with Miss Keaton's Youth Extravaganza at Fielder Church. So please pick up those flyers, and I hope to see you there. It's a weekend-long celebration, and it's a lot of fun. Come on through. You're good. Thanks, ma'am. Made sure to turn off my mic when I gave her my shirt size. Okay, on to our final recognition tonight, item E, Board Appreciation. And this is not just the board deciding tonight to recognize ourselves. It is actually in the state of Texas, and I believe across the country, it is School Board Recognition Month. So, Ms. Foster.
You are correct, President Chapa. Across America, it is School Board Recognition Month. I'm going to tell you something that you guys might not know, and you're probably going to be surprised by. These are all volunteer positions. So the service that you see every other Thursday in this room is only the tip of the iceberg of what the volunteers do to help make our school district run very smoothly. So they participate in a number of committee meetings. They attend a lot of conferences. They work together with a common purpose, and that's to make sure that Arlington ISD students have the tools and the resources and the qualified teachers that are needed to make sure that we produce wonderful students of the month, like you met here tonight. The theme for this year's recognition is Leadership for Tomorrow's Texas. Because our school board pours so much into our students, and they do it as a volunteer with no reward, we asked some of our very special students to pour into our school board tonight to say thank you. So I'm going to introduce you to our wonderful art teacher at West Elementary School, Keandra Alexander, who is going to walk you through some very special presentations.
Thank you. Let me secure my eyes first. Good afternoon. My name is Keandra Alexander, and I am proud to say I get to positively influence the brilliant minds of our scholars at West Elementary through visual arts. I would like to recognize Dr. Smith, the amazing members of our school board, and other faculty, staff, and community members for being present today. It is an honor to stand before you to express our profound appreciation for the unwavering dedication, hard work, and leadership each of the members of our school board have consistently demonstrated. Your commitment to the success and well-being of our students, teachers, and community is truly moving. It isn't uncommon for the blood, sweat, and tears of such a role to go unnoticed by the public eye. But because of your work, our students are able to thrive. They can thrive in a district committed to sending them into the world as capable individuals who will provide meaningful contributions to society. It is through your thoughtful decision-making, planning, and evaluation of current school needs that we are able to prepare for a brighter, more equitable future where students will continue to learn, grow, and succeed. Today, we celebrate each of you. What you have signed up to do is no easy feat, and the impact you make in shaping our educational environment is felt by everyone, students, parents, and educators alike. On behalf of the entire community, we thank you for your tireless efforts and your continued commitment to excellence in education. Your leadership makes a difference, and we are grateful for your service. You consistently demonstrate what leadership for tomorrow's Texas looks like today. I would now like to highlight the amazing work of my smart and courageous artists at West. They are only but a small percentage of the thousands of students you generously volunteer your time for. This evening, everyone will get to experience their interpretation of leadership for tomorrow's Texas. They have created some pieces for you, and they are very excited about the opportunity to celebrate this School Board Appreciation Month through the gift of visual arts. So first, we have Kafo, who will be presenting to David Wilbanks, and he is in 3rd grade. Kafo is an energetic student who is inspired by all of the cool things he gets to learn in science and in art. His confidence pushes him to strive for excellence in and outside of the classroom, and he truly believes he can do anything if he tries. His dream is to become a professional football player when he grows up. Good job, Kafo. Next, we have Lily, who will be presenting to Leanne Haynes, and she is in 6th grade. She is a stellar student who is inspired by the encouragement she receives from her family. She would like to become a hairstylist and hopes to help people embrace their true beauty and develop the confidence to be whatever they want to be. Next, we have Lydia, who will be presenting to Dr. Smith, and she is in 5th grade. Lydia is a masterful learner who loves spaces that allows her to freely showcase her creativity. She enjoys learning new things in all of her classes, and she wants to be a cosmetologist when she grows up. Next, we have Assam, who will be presenting to President Justin Chapa, and he is in 4th grade. Assam is a passionate leader whose favorite subject is PE. He is inspired by the life and accomplishments of Cristiano Ronaldo, so naturally soccer is his world. When he grows up, he hopes to reach his dream of becoming a professional soccer player. Next, we have Ishmael, who will be presenting to Vice President Sarah McMurrow, and he is in 5th grade. Ishmael is an outgoing problem solver who thrives on games and the arts of science. He enjoys simply having fun, and he would like to be a game developer when he grows up. Next, we have Aya, who will be presenting to Brooklyn Richardson's, and she is in 4th grade. Aya is a creative learner who is inspired by the confidence and strength her family has shown her. While art is a natural gift, she enjoys learning about history in her social studies class. She wants to become a hairstylist when she grows up as well. Next, we have Xylia, who will be presenting to Larry Mike, and she is in 4th grade. Xylia is a hardworking student, and her favorite subject in school is art. She loves combining her love of sports with art, so free drawing things with action has become one of her favorite pastimes. She dreams of someday becoming a world-renowned artist. And last but not least, we have Roy, who will be presenting to Melody Fowler, and he is in the 3rd grade. Roy is a studious scholar who enjoys exploring the mechanics behind things that he sees in school, movies, and other everyday adventures. His favorite subject is math, and he loves learning about trains. He wants to become an engineer when he grows up. This is the end of our presentation, and again, we are grateful for your service and proud to have leaders who care so deeply about the world of education in Arlington ISD. Thank you.
Did you want to send it to break?
Okay, we are going to go ahead and take a recess. It is 7:44, and we will come back into session in the next 10 to 15 minutes. All right, it is 8:01, and I will call us back in from recess. We would normally go on to our open forum for agenda items tonight, but I understand from Ms. Crossnow that we do not have any speakers for non-agenda items. However, we do have one speaker for non-agenda items, and in the interest of them not waiting until the end, we have a special guest. Mr. Mike O'Donnell, former AISD trustee, is here to speak about Shakespeare Live. Mr. O'Donnell, I assume I don't have to read the rules to you. You have 3 minutes.
I have a clear understanding. Thank you so much, President Chapa, Board President Chapa, Superintendent Dr. Smith, board members, and staff for allowing me to share information regarding Shakespeare Live with you tonight. Our performance, As You Like It, will be held April 3rd, 4th, and 5th at the Levitt Pavilion downtown. We have a performance each night at 7:30 and a special matinee performance Friday morning at 11 o'clock that's dedicated to the AISD as well as other students and educators from the area. All performances are free. As many of you know, educational outreach has been a cornerstone of Shakespeare Live. We conducted 2 summer workshops at 2 different branches of the Boys and Girls Clubs here in Arlington, one at the Peach branch at Peach Elementary, and both were very well received. We have been working with Aaron Perales for more than a year to ensure AISD students and faculty have the opportunity to attend Friday's matinee performance, and we really appreciate his support and the support of the board in making this happen. We are very thankful to have Dance Theater Arlington as our fiscal sponsor, and we are working closely with UTA's theater department. In fact, we have one of their own, Margaret Montessori, who is our costume designer. We also have a number of UTA alums on the cast. I think it's either 4 or 5, and I apologize, I don't know. We are very grateful for the support of the Arlington Tomorrow Foundation, Women Inspiring Philanthropy, Total Energy, the James Avery Foundation, and the Sargent family, as well as many other donors for making this happen. We have found that free is very expensive. This is truly a community endeavor. Chris Hightower and the Arlington Museum of Art are providing us rehearsal space beginning February 17th. Our play, As You Like It, is a playful romantic comedy, and it's set in the forest of Arden. You can help us, and I've got some cards here if you'll allow me to approach afterwards and give them all to you, by liking us on Instagram and following us on Facebook. Join us in a historic 3 days as the first live theatrical performance will be premiered at the Levin in downtown Arlington. And remember, all performances are free. We truly appreciate your support. This has been a 2.5-year endeavor, and we are so excited that it's finally coming together, and there's much more to come. So thank you all so very much, and you can't answer questions at this point, so I'll be quiet. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. You can hand Ms. Crossnow your handouts, and we'll be sure to get them.
Thank you.
Okay. We will now move on to committee and staff reports. And in the theme of mixing things up a little bit, we are actually going to begin tonight with item E on our 89th legislative session report. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Smith.
Thank you, President Chapa. Members of the board, it's my privilege tonight to welcome David Anderson. As you know, David continues to support public education, and as we kick off this legislative session, we asked David to come and give you a brief update on what is ahead and what we may be seeing throughout the spring. Thank you for being here tonight, David.
Thank you. Good evening. Several people said, David, we're so sorry we kept you late tonight. And I say, keep me as late as you want, because your trustee meetings, if they don't inspire people about our independent school districts, we value the I in independent school district, but truly the Arlington Independent School District is the Arlington Community School District. You are so connected on so many fronts, and it's just, I just can't tell you how much I enjoy being here and watching all of the proceedings before I get to come up. So thank you. We'll see if I can operate the technology correctly. We are now 1 week into our legislative session, 140 days, 20 weeks. And although they have only been in session 3 days, the first week really is over. The Senate has adjourned until next Wednesday. The House adjourned today until next Wednesday. Staff is working. Some of the members are working, but some are back home talking with people about what happened this week. So what I'd like to do is frame where we are in the session, and then certainly handle any questions or comments that you may have. So I want to start with leadership, because I think it's important to know what happened this week. Governor Abbott, we knew coming back, Governor Abbott is in the middle of his 4-year term. He had his address to the 89th legislature earlier this week on Tuesday on the first day, and he highlighted 2 issues. Bail reform, which I think the only person concerned about bail reform is probably Dr. Hill. He and I talk about bail reform all the time in light of some of our younger experiences. School choice, though, touches everyone here, and Governor Abbott is very serious about bail reform. He recognizes that we are not doing that right in Texas, but his time with the legislature really focused on school choice, and so that tells us that that is going to be one of the items that he designates as emergency, and one that will get a lot of attention early. Governor Patrick, in several occasions this week, but certainly we have known for a long time that school choice is a critical issue for him. He has championed this since before he became a senator, as Senate Ed Chair, and as Lieutenant Governor. Consistent with what we have seen in past sessions, we expect a school choice bill to come flying out of the Senate. And the Senate will move much quicker on that issue and on others, and I'll talk more about that when we get to our bill slide later, but it will come out of the Senate very, very quickly. And so to those of you who are concerned about school choice, and I know many people in this room are, I would say do not be too concerned when you see that and wonder where the House is on this. The House will be behind on that issue. But that's what we'll see coming out of the Senate. It will be moved quickly along with other issues. State leadership now also includes the Speaker of the House. And I know that here in Arlington, you were paying close attention to that because one of the members of your delegation was one of the two serious candidates for Speaker. And so Representative Dustin Burrows from Lubbock was elected by the 150-member House body on Tuesday on the second ballot. He prevailed over Representative David Cook. And with the two of them, I felt that we had two serious, well-qualified candidates to be Speaker. I have a great regard for each of them. We know quite a bit more about David Cook. I do because I got to work with him on a number of issues last session, particularly the Medal of Honor Museum. And I observed him firsthand and saw his level of organization, how he used his insights to get things done. And he would have been a very tremendous speaker. There's no question about it. But that's a vote that, or an election that only 150 people get to vote on. And I'm not one of them. So the House will move forward. But I do want to say the House will be slower with its movement. I believe we've talked before about the standing committees in the last session, and we'll probably have a similar structure, Mr. Wilbanks, this session. With our standing committees, 36 standing House committees, after the primaries, 9 of the chairmen were not returning. They either announced that they were not running for re-election or they were defeated in the primary. So think about, Dr. Smith, think about a school district with 36 campuses, and you're the superintendent, you're the trustees. If 9 of your principals say, I'm not coming back for the next school year, certainly don't panic. You look and say, well, we've got 36 assistant principals, and we're going to look at moving some of the best ones up. But of the 36 vice chairs in the House, 9 of them were not returning either by their own volition or because they were defeated. So 25% of the leadership with that team is not coming back. There will be significant turnover in leadership. I think we can look at the Speaker and we see that Dustin Burrows, the people who supported him, were very much aligned with former Speaker Dade Phelan. So one would think that the turnover will probably be a little less limited, or there will be lower turnover among the leadership positions with Burrows than had Representative Cook been elected. It will take some time to get those chairmen and chairwomen and the vice chairs in place. I think that looking at the calendar right now, I would say that we're looking at probably Thursday, January 30th, or Thursday, February 6th, as when those committees will be announced. I think that's important for you when you think about scheduling your trip, to your initial trip to Austin, to talk with delegation members and talk with other members. And I say those Thursday dates, I think it will be Thursday the 6th of February, and I say that because for the first few weeks, they will adjourn on Thursday, and the tradition or the habit has been adjourn the House about 1 o'clock on Thursday, let the members have about an hour to get out of town, and then announce the committees so that they're on their way before they hear what the committee assignments are. So I think that's when we'll see that happen. That next week, probably the second week in February, we'll see committees start to meet and get organized, go through their rules, and begin to hear how they're going to conduct their business. So the House will vote next week on their operating rules. There are some procedures that have been recommended that will have the House operating a bit differently this session if they're approved. And so you'll get a report from us after that on what to expect. Bill status. If you don't have your seat belts on right now, you need to put them on when it comes to bills, because as of today, we have over 2,600 bills and resolutions filed in the 2 chambers, and that is a significant increase from the 23 session. And Ms. McGurry, you remember the 23 session, we had more bills filed then than we ever had filed before. So beginning next week, our Strive Public Policy bill tracking will be distributed. So you and your team will have those, and you'll be able to share those with the trustees. Consistent with what has been done the last several sessions, we will have one master education track The only thing that master track is good for is to look at the bottom to see how many bills have been filed. The tracks that are important for you are going to be the 19 topical tracks. And they're going to be consistent with what we had last time, a few modifications with how we're tracking bills. But you'll see those beginning next week. Remember also that in the House, the Speaker, prior Speaker Phelan, now Speaker Burrows, they reserved the first 20 bill numbers for priority legislation. House Bill 1 will be the appropriations bill. House Bill 2 through 20 will be bills that are significant priority bills in different policy areas. As of today, only one priority bill number has been assigned, and it has been assigned to an education bill. Representative Gary Gates, who has promoted the notion of some specialized career and technical high schools, has streamlined his bill. And again, you'll have an analysis of this from us here pretty soon, because we see this as a bill that is going to have significant positive implications, particularly for some of our smaller rural schools, but for larger school districts such as Arlington that have really invested in career and technical education, Dr. Works, this bill has some implications for how we might be able to do business in a much more flexible way at the school district level when it comes to graduation requirements. And I think it's one that we'll all find fascinating. That's the only priority bill filed to date. On the Senate side, because everything's bigger and better in the Senate, we have 40 priority bill numbers, not 20, 1 through 40, and none of those priority bill numbers have been assigned in the Senate yet. I get a lot of questions about some of our hot topics, our major topics, particularly the one I refer to as the elephant in the rotunda, school voucher, school choice. What's the school voucher bill going to look like? Well, we really don't know yet because the bill hasn't been filed. Have there been voucher bills filed? Yes, but none of them have priority bill numbers. When we see one of those low bill numbers assigned to a voucher bill that is filed by the chairman or chairwoman of the House Public Ed Committee, that's the bill we need to look at. So those are some of the things that we need to watch early. The other thing that occurred this week that has significant implications for us is the Comptroller's biennial revenue estimate. And I'm sure everybody got a chance to read a lot about that in the paper. We put some highlights here in our PowerPoint our PowerPoint presentation for you. I think one of the most significant ones is that general purpose spending, we have almost $195 billion. It's significant. When members talk about we don't have money for this or that, I moderated a panel today with 3 members, 2 former trustees who are serving in the House now, and they did remind the audience that it's much harder to do a budget when you have a surplus than when you have a limited number of funds. I think you see the same thing here. It's a whole lot easier to say no when you don't have the funds than it is when you have a lot of funds. So the budget is going to be there. We anticipate that there will be significant attention to some increase in K-12 funding in a supplemental appropriations bill that will move a little bit more quickly than the other appropriations bill. So if I had to gaze into my cloudy or my cracked crystal ball right now on school finance, I do think that we're going to see increases in school funding this session. One of the key variables about the amount will be what happens with school choice. But I do believe that we're going to see some additional funding. I think we'll see some help for you in the supplemental bill. The more significant help will be coming in the appropriations bill, either House Bill 1 or Senate Bill 1. So the last thing I want to say about the biennial revenue estimate, and I'll show you, you do have the graphic from the controller here in the slide deck also. The last thing I want to say about this is that the Economic Stabilization Fund, the Rainy Day Fund, will reach its constitutional maximum. So once it's there, the legislature cannot put any more money into that fund without changing the structure, and that really won't affect what they do this session. So that means that all those funds that we've seen in prior sessions revert to the Rainy Day Fund. They're not going to be able to do that, which says they're going to be paying more attention to how to effectively and efficiently use those funds to compress taxes, school taxes, or provide additional funding for the areas that need it. We're not the only, although I think education ought to be the area that gets the greatest attention. We're not the only area. I do think that you should expect to see a lot of attention paid to water policy this session, and that is probably going to be one of the areas that does require some additional funding. So we will be competing with a lot of areas, particularly some of the water policy proposals, as we look at securing additional funding for K-12. So let me stop for a second and see if there are any questions or anything that you want to get into here as we wrap up the first week of our 20-week session.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Are there any comments or questions from trustees? Mr. Wilbanks.
Thank you, David Anderson. My question is on the projected surplus. It was lower than the projected surplus last time, but that's only because no COVID relief federal money.
The COVID relief funds is one factor in that. The tax collections are not down. There's additionally this time there's some funds that weren't spent last time, but the COVID relief funds, not just in education but in health as well, are a significant factor in that.
Yeah. So that's even more money to pay teachers.
It's not scientific, but from our visits with members and with staff over the last week, there seems to be a very widespread interest, particularly with some of our new members, some of the people who defeated the pro-public ed crowd in the Republican primary, people who were painted as anti-public school. I think that the media really has misrepresented that for a lot of those members. What we found is that some of those that said, I would favor school choice, are also very supportive of our independent school districts, but particularly supportive of compensation increases for educators, specifically teachers. And we have several from the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area that fall into that category. They're painted as anti-school, but when you talk to them, you find out that one is a former teacher and a former coach, another is a former curriculum writer and teacher, and they're very tuned into the needs of school districts. They still support school choice, but they want to support our independent school districts as well.
That's good to know.
President Chapa, thank you very much for the opportunity to catch up. If there's anything else, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I'll let you get on with your agenda.
I don't have any more lights with questions, so thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Thank you very much.
Okay. We will also continue to switch things up a little bit in recognition of the fact that we have some guests with us tonight. We're going to move on to our first action item A, 2025-2026 Arlington ISD academic calendar adoption. Dr. Smith.
Sorry, I was daydreaming there for a second. I am honored to welcome Dr. Wertz up to the podium tonight. Dr. Wertz and team have been working with a calendar committee that I think has done outstanding work, really honing in on how we use our calendar as a resource for student learning and for teacher support. So, Dr. Wertz.
All right. Good evening, President Chapa, members of the board. Dr. Smith, thank you for letting me be here this evening to share with you our final draft of the next year's 25-26 academic calendar. This has been weeks and weeks of work with lots of people, which I'll talk about tonight, and we have received feedback across multiple stakeholder groups, and those have been integrated for our proposal tonight. Tonight, I will be sharing with you the final calendar draft for your consideration. I want to start off by recognizing our committee. We had several members of stakeholder groups participate in this design process. They included parents, teachers and staff, principals, students. We had one specific student who's here this evening, Kara, who really added a lot of value to the students' perspective in our conversations. Administration, of course, we have our community members. So if you are a member of the committee and you happen to be here this evening, if you would just stand so that we could recognize you. It's volunteer time, and their insights were very, very helpful. And one of our chairs, specifically, we have two co-chairs, Selena Vasquez, who wasn't able to be here this evening due to a health reason, but Sarah Mahoney is also one of the co-chairs. She's here this evening. At the end of my presentation, I'm going to give her an opportunity to share with you what her experience was like before I answer questions. So our charge was unique this year. We were charged specifically with developing a calendar that maximized professional learning opportunities for our staff throughout the school year, and also considered staff and students' well-being. This is aligned to one of the board priorities that prioritizes professional learning. And one of the things we really tried to think about was what is considered high-quality professional learning. There are many components to high-quality professional learning. Specifically, you're looking for professional learning that is differentiated for the learning needs of the teachers and staff. It's sustainable and it's ongoing, meaning opportunities for teachers to gain new skills by learning new concepts, practicing, getting coached around it, learning a little bit more, practicing in a similar way that you would do in the classroom. It needs to be timely and relevant and directly addressing the needs that our students have. Ideally, professional learning has a job-embedded component. It's not just going to a session. It's about learning how to apply research-based practices in the context with your kids around you. There's also opportunities for feedback to be given to each other, either through a collaborative process or through peers. It's flexible, and as I said, it's responsive to the needs of the students and are reflective by the campus goals. When we design a calendar, as I had mentioned earlier, we do have specific guidelines and guidance that we have received from the state and that are aligned in statute that we have to adhere to. And I just wanted to point out a few of them because they do create what I call a fence post around where some of our decision making is. The state does require that students engage in 75,600 minutes of operational instruction every year annually, and there are only a couple of exceptions to that rule. One is you can apply for a state waiver for professional learning, which would allow you to reduce those minutes by 2,100 minutes if you choose to. And there are also days that you could use for emergency closure due to inclement weather. You have to have a calendar that reflects 187 contract days for teachers, and there are some limitations around when you can start school and when you have to finish the last day of school. We do have some exceptions around that we have flexibility because we are a district of innovation. And then finally, just as a point of reference, our current school day here in Arlington ISD is 445 minutes. So this is just a quick reminder of the things I've shared the last time we were here about what our process was like. We looked at research, we gathered as a group, we had discussion about what those tenets of high quality instructional learning, professional learning looks like with adults. We looked at what an ideal calendar could be. We looked at models of other calendars. And then after our reflection, the team developed 3 prototypes and then refined those to what we call 2 beta calendars, which I shared with you last time. And then tonight we're here to finalize the last draft, which includes additional feedback opportunities that were solicited from our stakeholders across the community. This is just a picture that you've seen before of our work, and I just want to point out in this picture, it really was not just look at the old calendar and think about ways to enhance a new one. We literally started from scratch. So it'd almost be like a zero-based budget. It was zero-based calendar, and it really was a space where there was a lot of ideating. So I thought I would highlight tonight a little bit about what the additional feedback points look like. So over the winter holiday, we solicited through Thought Exchange, staff and stakeholders, more feedback about the final draft of the calendar, and we showed them a copy. This is what it looks like. What are your thoughts? And these are just the general themes, some of which I'm going to actually address as I go through the calendar month by month, just to point out some key points and where they were acknowledged. One of the some of the themes from staff was having additional time off in October and April and May. There was some discussion about shortening like summer holidays and having more of a fall break. But as you know from my previous point, there are boundaries about when you can actually kind of think about school starting. They also talked a lot about making sure that our calendar does align to other calendars that are around us in terms of school districts or entities that we work with. And that's specifically helpful for employees who also have children who go to other systems but actually work here. There was discussion about the professional development itself and how to make sure that it's meaningful, and then there's also adequate time for teachers to plan and to prepare to implement the things that they're learning. And then finally, there was a discussion point about the time of when the parent-teacher conference date was indicated in the calendar. And when we get to the calendar, I'll share a little bit about like why we landed on what we landed on and what the discussion point was. You'll notice on the bottom, this last round, there was about 375 additional respondents from the first time that we sent out for feedback, and that actually generated a total of over 23,000 thoughts or ratings on those thoughts. For feedback in the community, we had an additional 700 people share their feedback around the calendar once the final draft was published. And some of the themes that came out of their feedback were really leaning more towards extended weekends over these half days. And I'll talk a little bit about where we do have half days and why they need to be there. They also asked us to really think about the reevaluating some of the school holidays. And the one specifically that was brought up was the holiday that's prior to the Easter holiday. What the thought was is if it's a holiday, let it be a holiday. And so we've addressed that in our calendar, and I'll talk to you about that. Again, summer break and holiday in October. And then, of course, really just a thought about thinking about what the impact the calendar has on working families, making sure that when we schedule parent-teacher conferences that parents have notice and they're aware. And then there was a discussion about 504 and IEP plans, making sure that those are well integrated into the calendar day, which they are. And then finally, again, making sure that we're maximizing professional learning. The real thought around this was everyone's for professional learning because it's going to, in the long run, really impact students in a positive way. So I'm going to walk through the calendar month by month just to briefly point out some of the things that we talked about, and then I'll turn some time over to Sarah so she can share her experience, and then I'll come back and answer questions. So as you notice on your screen, you'll see we have July 4th off, and then you'll move into August. And in August, you're going to see a mixture of dates, and this is the same as the last time. Actually, I'm going to use this handy tool here. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. These dates right here, these represent the beginning of the school year when teachers come back, and there's a split between a certain number of days which are designated for professional learning and a certain number of days that are designated for teacher prep time. On one of those days, there'll be a portion that will be taken for convocation. Start of the school year starts on Wednesday, just like it did last year, and then we get a lot of positive feedback about that. That's on August 13th. And when you move into the September month, you have the first Monday, which is Labor Day. That is a student staff holiday. And then on the 19th of September is the first professional development day, and that will be the day where there will be no students at school, but teachers would be receiving professional learning. The following Monday, high school students go to school, but elementary students won't go to school that day, but the day will be used to work with parents in parent-teacher conferences. I just want to elevate this one because this was a point of a question that came up in terms of comments on our feedback. We had a lot of dialogue about why would you put, why do we have it in September? Maybe if we did it in the middle of the second 6 weeks, it would be better. And the challenge around, we have two discussion points that we dialogued about. One was feedback from sources that are connected to the parent involvement department. And basically in that department from Aaron's group, there's a lot of discussion about parents wanting to make sure that they build relationships early with teachers. They didn't want to delay it too long. And so one of the reflection points we thought about was how much time does it take for a teacher to really understand their students, and what data points do they need to know to understand where they are academically so they can have a meaningful conversation with families. Our beginning of the year assessments are finalized before that date. So I think our last day for BOI is around the 12th of September, which gives teachers an opportunity to gather their information and have a meaningful conversation with families in September at the end of the first 6 weeks. So after a reflection, the decision was to propose the calendar where it would allow teachers a full 6 weeks to work with their kids, to access their academic data, have a meaningful conversation with parents, and still honor the parents' request to have connection with their teachers early in the year and not late. That was the reason. If you move into October, you'll see October 10th is another professional learning day, and then on the 13th, there's a student staff holiday. November, you'll see this happen on the 3rd and the 4th, and then you'll notice the Thanksgiving break that's at the end of November. December, we have our typical holiday or winter break. One thing I want to note here is that on the 18th and 19th, you're going to see that these are early release days for secondary. I'm highlighting this specifically because there was a comment about extended weekends versus early release. Early release at the secondary level is quite important because students are using that time to prepare for their final exams. So they use the half day they're off to prepare for the next day's final exams, because that is the end of the semester. Moving into January, we start school. The semester actually starts on the 7th, so on the 5th, it's a prep day, and on the 6th, we have professional learning. Another holiday on the 19th, and then you move into February. You have a professional learning day on the 13th and a holiday on the 16th. And you're going to notice on the 16th there's a little asterisk there, and the asterisk represents an inclement weather makeup day. So that's one of the first makeup days that are on the calendar. If you move into March, we have open house that's designated at the top, our spring break, and then on March 23rd, you're going to see a couple of other things there. It's a student holiday. It's also designated as an inclement weather day, so should we have to come back to school because there's inclement weather, that would be an actual school day. And then if we don't have to do that, it's also noted as a teacher prep day. So there was discussion about where do you put the teacher prep, and the discussion was you have the spring break, people are refreshed, they can come back and like throw themselves into their work on the day after. And then the question that came around the holidays is specifically around April 3rd. So the thought was if Sunday, which is the Easter holiday, we typically have had the Friday off before. If it's a holiday, leave it a holiday. So we adjusted the calendar based on that feedback, and that day now is a day off. It's not a day off. It's not a day off with an inclement weather or some other asterisk attached to it, such as an exchange day. It's just a solid holiday. And then you'll notice May, it's the same as it's been in the past. We tried to end school at the same time. What you're going to notice that I want to draw your attention to is at the very end, there's one exchange day. There is this year only one exchange day in the calendar. And the reason why there is one exchange day is because there are extra training points that teachers often have to participate in, and we want to make sure their time is being honored with a work day because they have to do 187 days of contract. So some examples of that are if I have to do my 6-hour update for gifted and talented, or there are specific courses I have to take because I'm ready myself for a special education environment. So this is exchange time. The reason why you don't see other exchange dates is because they were built into the calendar. So rather than you coming for extended days in the summer, we were actually putting them in the school year. The question that has been coming up is, does that mean that we have no summer training? It doesn't mean that we're not going to do summer training. We're actually having that discussion now. It just may look a little different. It may not be as extensive as it was before because we're aligning our professional learning to our professional learning plan that we're currently developing, and we're going to roll it out slowly over the course of the school year. But we do have a vision for what summer training could look like, and some of our discussion points are opportunities for even teachers to teach teachers. So we're still talking about what that could look like. And then the last point I just want to mention is on the 19th, which is Juneteenth. That's also been honored on this calendar as well, and I think our first time doing it was last year. So before I answer questions, I'm going to invite Sarah up to the podium, and she's going to share with you a little bit about her experience, and then I'll jump back on. Yeah.
Hi, good evening. I appreciate the chance to share just a little bit about the experience that I've had this year. This is my 5th year on the calendar committee. I always sign up. I love it. I love making an impact on something that, impacts our teachers and stakeholders and our students. I have 2 students in our system, so it's also something very near to my heart. And so with this experience this year, it was just, every experience has been great, but this year was just much more meaningful because we really started from the ground floor. Like the pictures you saw up there with Post-it notes on the walls, and we were working in groups, and we were even having sort of like a professional learning session ourselves because Dr. Wertz presented an article. We really dug into what professional learning should look like and then use that information in the following sessions to strategically place where those dates should occur. And as someone who works in our system as well, I'm the CTE coordinator, part of my charge is to find ways to provide meaningful professional learning experiences for our teachers. And our district does a great job. And we have summer impact, we have all of our back to school trainings, but when teachers get into the classrooms, sometimes they are presented with new challenges or their students need help with something else. And so by creating these 5 professional learning days throughout the year, we're going to really be able to target what our teachers need and give them that chance to really implement it. And I was sharing with Ms. Richardson, I was talking to my son about coming here tonight and sharing about how exciting it was to have this new calendar. And he was like, well, what makes it so great? And I was telling him about the opportunity for professional learning and what that is. And so he's like, so it benefits the teachers, maybe not as much as students, but maybe, and I was like, well, but think about what we're doing. And he goes, oh, you're right. You're going to make them that much better for us. And so I mean, he's a senior and we don't get these moments much, but when he said that, I was like, you're right. And so I just wanted to share that little nugget and just let you know that I am really thrilled that we had this opportunity to be flexible and to, do some trial and error and get multiple versions, the beta versions, and then get feedback and make adjustments to that. And I think it's going to be a really great calendar for everyone in the district, and I'm just really excited to be a part of this process. So thank you.
Careful there. All right, so we recommend that the board consider approving our 25-26 calendar as presented, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Wertz. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Trustees have questions, and we'll go first to Ms. Richardson.
Dr. Wertz, thank you. I sent you an email earlier today with questions, and one of the things that I love is that so many of my questions you answered in the presentation, so I don't have near as many for you. One of the things I do want to go back and highlight, and maybe Stephanie, you want to be a part of this too if you have anything different to add to it, but when we look at September 22nd, that is going to be the no school for elementary only because they're going to do conferences.
Right.
One of the things that we have to deal with as a district is that we get paid for attendance. When students are here, it's attendance based.
Right.
Is there concern that September the 19th is a holiday? And so if you have older children who are out of school on the 22nd, that older children that are in school on the 22nd, that parents may just take that as an extended long weekend, and now we're going to have attendance drop on the 22nd.
So we actually considered all of those points, not only just about this, but also about teacher attendance and how do you make sure that you have professional learning on days and you're having a holiday in the back end and what prevents or what motivates people to be there. So we did have those discussions. One of the thoughts specifically around this that we talked a lot about was this is not necessarily unique to Arlington. There are other districts that make this available. The key for parents that we've talked about is a lot of advance notice. A parent can actually prepare for a day when they know their child's going to be off and think about how they can mitigate any challenges they may have. If it's adopted in early, it's adopted early versus like way late. So we did talk about that. I don't know if there's any way to guarantee specifically what a parent may or may not choose, but our hope is that kids will continue to go to school. High school students are incentivized to be there, especially if they're juniors and seniors, and it will be an opportunity for parents to plan in advance. But we did talk about it, yeah.
Okay. When I was looking at this and visiting with stakeholders and teachers, one of the big things that they were appreciating was the professional development days, how nice that was, and being able, that they were thoughtfully put in, and thank you for that. Will you be partnering with the CNI level instruction team to do differentiated trainings? For example, we have teachers that are 1 to 10 years that could go to training A, and you have teachers with 10 years plus that can go to training B. That way, we are hearing their concerns that they don't want all, just like we don't teach our students all the same way, our teachers don't want to be taught the same way. And to really make that professional development matter, versus the tenure of the teacher?
So yes, we are planning what that could look like. It's still in the works because we have to wait for the calendar to be adopted, but that is actually our intent. We don't plan on differentiating it by years of experience, but we do plan on differentiating it based upon what are the goals of the district, what are the proficiency levels of the teachers, and what training actually addresses them from where they currently are and where they're trying to go. As part of the professional learning plan that we're working on, we're trying to design a whole system which would allow a teacher to self-reflect on their practice, establish specific targets, and then align their actual professional learning to address those individual needs that they have based on their actual practice in the classroom. So we do intend to differentiate, but what we specifically offer and what we choose to do on the days that are there, it will be aligned to district targets and campus needs, and also it may be a mix. So that it's very possible that some groups of teachers in some places may be pulled and go off campus that day and get training from the district, and others are going to be at their campus. We've actually talked about potentially having split days where you actually get training and then you go back and you plan for it. So all of those things are on the table, but differentiation is like core to that discussion. Yeah.
Okay. Are we going to be continuing on with the content roadmap that we did this past year?
That has not been deeply discussed. There's less of a need for something like that. So it's not in this. We do it now because we don't have any opportunities, very rare opportunities to poll people. When you build calendars into the PD into the calendar, there's less needs for that. So I don't anticipate it.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate the committee and who put the time and energy into this. And the feedback that so many community members gave was they were excited because it truly, you were able to tell that you didn't copy and paste, that this was started from scratch and you listened to the feedback that you had been given. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. We'll go now to Ms. Fowler.
Thank you, President Chapa. Love the calendar. Thank you and all the committee members for all the long hours I know you put into this. It's a good calendar. I've heard from a couple of community members questioning why we don't have Veterans Day off.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so that was also a discussion point that we had. Really what we're trying to do is you have to balance a couple of things when we think about the calendar, how many days of instruction kids are engaged in each semester, the continuity of the instruction so that you're not taking too many breaks intermittently along the way, breaking up units of study. One of the things that we've thought about too is like, rather than the day off, since it's not scheduled as a day off, how do you intentionally embed learning around Veterans Day and why it's in our system as part of a social studies in the classroom so that they can still honor Veterans Day but actually be in school. That's one of the discussion points we had. But it was on our topic of discussion, but a lot of it had to do with the way that the calendar is organized and how you chunk it in a way that doesn't impact learning in the classroom.
I totally understand that, and I love the idea of maybe bringing in veterans into the classrooms or doing special things on each campus to observe that day. So I love that you're already thinking about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Mr. Mike.
Thank you. Dr. Wirtz, all my questions have been asked, so I'll just make a few comments. Thank you. What I heard frequently that you stated was feedback, meaning talking to our stakeholders, talking to the community, parents, teachers, administration, students. For those out there who are watching in TV land and they wonder, what are we doing in Arlington ISD? It's this, it's listening. And to see, when you don't really know about a calendar, you just see it come out and you're like, okay, that's calendar when it's spring break. To know that you could have easily taken what we have done, made a little tweaks, and then here you go. But you did the harder route of starting fresh. And that's a trend that has been occurring now with new admin, I call him a head coach, that's in place, is the culture change. And I love seeing our priorities are in effect and people buying into those priorities, because at the end of the day, it's going to affect our students. And our community is going to see the impact that it has on the students. To receive emails from teachers happy about this, that speaks wonders of what is going on. And to hear you answer the questions of the foresight and forethought of what you are planning to do on these days, I mean, I don't know how many more kudos I can give, right? it's just amazing to see. Like I didn't know that a calendar would be this intense, and to see the final product and to see what is presented makes me very honored to be a part of this organization, to work with people like you and the committee and the staff. I'm very grateful and humbled. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Ms. McMurrow.
Thank you, Dr. Wirtz, and everyone from the calendar committee, both the folks that are here and the folks that are not here and will eventually watch this. I want to really commend Ms. Mahoney and Ms. Vasquez as the two co-chairs. I was just telling Ms. Mahoney during our recess that the calendar is never a small feat because there are so many different viewpoints,
Right.
and there really is a lot of, there's no right way. It's just a philosophical
Right.
decision at some point, and it has to be hard to reach that common ground and, make this. So I appreciate y'all. I know it was a lot of discussion and debate at some points, but we got an email from co-chair Ms. Vasquez during the recess, and she was speaking to us in support of the calendar. And Ms. Mahoney is a staff member at the district level, but she's also a parent, as she mentioned. And that smart boy that she was talking about, I was his fourth grade teacher. So I just had to claim him too. Thank you. Can't believe he's a senior. It makes me feel old. So really quickly, speaking of parents, I know that there's been a lot of discussion about, and we talked to you about this in governance, about the parent conference date. And it is a little bit earlier than some folks would wish, but it's really important to note that parents can request a conference at any time.
That's right.
And there's even a section on the 6-week report card where busy parents can just check the box. Yes, I want a parent conference. My child's teacher will follow up with me. So I like that it's early on, just to make that early connection and make sure that, right after the first grading period, which I love, you'll be able to have that early communication. But I can request a conference at any point in time, no matter what school, what grade level my child is in. And the other thing that I was going to mention, the fact that our calendar was built to prioritize professional learning and really pour into our teachers, the only ask I have of staff moving forward is to keep the spirit of professional learning as a priority, because our teachers who are required to complete TEA reading academies, that's a lot of time. That's over six, it's not 60 hours, it's over 60 hours of professional development they have to complete within a 1-year time frame. And I know that because of the nature of us partnering with Region 11 as our provider for that, these days can't match up with their days. But I do hope that staff continues to consider how we can allow that cohort of teachers to have more of an equitable, addition to what are they going to do during professional learning days at our level. Could it be a collaboration day? Could we even give them a work day? What can we do for those folks that are already completing 60 additional hours of professional learning? And you guys know better than me what that looks like and what our resources are and what levers we can pull. I just really ask for staff to consider them because it's a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. McMurrow. Are there any further questions or comments from trustees? Okay, I have just a few, Dr. Wirtz.
Okay.
And a lot of them were already answered. I have a question. I'll start with students who are involved in extracurricular activities or athletics. We have a lot of Friday, Mondays off. Maybe not so much the Mondays, but Fridays, especially in the fall. It's band, it's football. If students are out, if students and staff are out on those Fridays, what happens for students and teachers who are otherwise and coaches assigned to have activities on those days?
So, and I'm going to defer to Michael on that, but those events will still occur. They still happen. When the calendar is adopted, then that is shared and they work out the UIL calendar outside of that. But my understanding typically is that if it's scheduled on a Friday, they're still going to play. It's just like summer when they're doing practice and there's no school going on, those still happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these questions, I'm just trying to see what the discussions were like. Because I really appreciate, and Ms. Mahoney, I called you Ms. Thompson earlier, and I'm very sorry about that. I'm very sorry. I really like what you said about this was an opportunity to start from the ground up and make something new, and I like that we're trying to do something innovative with the 4-day weekends, which I think is an unusual number from compared to maybe what we've done in the past. So willing to try it out, but I do have a couple of questions about how discussions went with, I think there's an inherent tension there, right, between building in these days that help our staff. I think there's some parents who very much are going to love the 4-day weekends. I've heard from quite a few of them. But I also think that the other tension, there's a note in here about the burden on working parents. And so with so many Fridays and Mondays off, I worry in our district that we have a significant number of families that those parents are not going to be able to get off those days, and they're still going to have to get childcare. How did that discussion go around that tension of that particular pressure point?
It's similar to what I had shared earlier. One was, of course, making sure that there was adequate notice. We also looked at calendars and other systems who have done something similar. What we tried to do, and some of the feedback that actually came back specifically from parents, was a prioritization of extended weekends or even over half days, because if in the past what we would have done is we would have sprinkled half days around to also create space, and their preference was to actually have the longer weekends. It is always a question. We'll have to see how it goes and see what feedback we get throughout the school year. But the goal that we have is really more about making sure people have the notice and time to do it, and leaning into the experience that other systems that are doing it already are having, which is they're not having significant feedback that we're hearing about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would prefer this approach. I do prefer this approach over the scattered half days. I think half days in particular are burdensome for some families. I think the last question I have, and probably the part of the proposal that I'm most skeptical about, to be honest with you, is the 6th day of spring break after spring break. And so I understand the thought that people are going to come back refreshed and they're going to have a prep day where they're going to be on point and getting things done. But it seems a little bit odd to me to do it there instead of, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have something in close vicinity, and I think we've maybe done this in the relatively recent past, but to turn that first weekend in April into a 4-day to coincide with Easter for the families. And understanding staff would be coming back then on the 6th, but that would coincide with the end of a grading period. Was there any discussion about how it might be better to have that day at the end of the grading period, and so teachers can come in on the 6th and wrap up anything they need to do to get grades done for that? I believe that would be the 5th 6 weeks. And put the prep day there.
Yeah, so in terms of the grading period, it would have ended the week before, right, in April on the 2nd, before we go to the break. The reason why we had the conversation there, so there were 2 discussion points around that specific day. One was the Friday before, and one was the Monday after. And initially we had 2, if you look at the 2 calendar, one was a prep day and one was a professional learning day. And the discussion was, no one wants to really engage in professional learning right before they're about to go to break because they're mentally exhausted and they're checked out.
Okay.
Which I think humanly, we would all know that, human-wise. The reason for the prep day on the day back was because it would be a way, so that's right when the season really kicks into gear, to make sure you're closing all the gaps right before they start taking STAR. So the discussion was, how do you allow teachers to get their break and then come back and leverage that day to really finalize their preparation to receive kids back to move into the next few months of the semester. The other discussion thing, the reason why it was initially targeted in March versus other dates too, is because you'll notice across the calendar there was a professional learning day almost in every month, and then you get to March and starts to taper off. That's why it eventually became a prep day. So that was the rationale behind it. There is the other thing to keep in mind too is in April, the STAR week. The STAR window starts the week of that first break. So the April 6th is when those windows of testing start to begin to open. And so there was discussion about the fact that you don't want to start having kids take days off when testing windows across the state start to open, because it reduces the level of flexibility that campuses can have in terms of scheduling when kids are assessed. So all those components were kind of taken into consideration when we actually targeted the date in March.
Okay, in some respects you're saying there was a possibility to do that because it's got to be off the table for programmatic reasons. It would work better being that 2 weeks.
Right.
You want something in the vicinity, but I'm hearing there's
It
going
was
to be
part-
STAR end-of-course testing that week.
It starts to begin, yeah. So, and because the other question was, can you move the date from the 3rd? Can you? Because one of the comments that came is, hey, what about the middle of April? We don't have any days off in April. Can we move it from the 3rd to like the 10th or the 17th? But you couldn't do it because then you're creating days off when the windows start opening. And so we tried to make sure all those things were in place so that once that starts, there's minimal interruption in the school day or school year, yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking, and we've got four months with 4-day weekends, and 3 of them are in the first semester.
Right.
And then the last one was in February, so it seemed like there's sort of not quite spread out, so I was wondering about
If there's one comment I would just add, just to kind of put a bow on it to make sure that everyone understands, because the question is like, how do you have all these different days? We still have the same math, meaning you still have the same required number of minutes. It's not necessarily days of instruction, it's minutes of instruction. We still have the same number of required contract days for teachers. So it may be shuffled and look and spread around differently on this calendar, but the legal requirements, the math still has to add up, so that's still the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
My last question would be, and I'm glad that it seems like we got significantly more community feedback during this process than maybe we haven't in prior years. What would be is there a common strand that is sort of against this proposal in favor of something closer to what we do now?
I don't remember reading anything that was like, wow, this is like the really big idea that was against it. We actually, if you go on Thought Exchange, you can actually prioritize. You get big themes, and then you get the summarized big ideas, but then you can look at the individual thoughts, and you can see what are your top 20 thoughts that are being rated, and they really start to taper down at that point. There really wasn't a loud voice that I remember reading, or we had a discussion about that was like, this is really bad. They were usually more about little things here and there, like, can we have, Good Friday more as a holiday? Can we really think about extended weekends over half days? It was more those kinds of things that people would then respond to those thoughts. There wasn't an overarching, I like this calendar versus I wish you would just keep it the old way. Most of the feedback actually we've gotten about it has been quite positive. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see no other trustees requesting to speak, so thank you, Dr. Wertz.
You're
We'll move
welcome.
on now. Trustees, if this is an action item, so we do need a vote to approve the calendar as presented. Do I have a motion to approve the calendar as presented? I have a motion from Mr. Mike.
I second.
I'll go ahead and take a second from Mr. Wilbanks. I was a little slow there on the mic. Apologies for that. We'll now move on to vote. All trustees voting in the affirmative, the calendar carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. Thank y'all.
Thank you to our calendar committee members for your service. Your service does not have to extend through the end of this meeting unless you would just like to stay. Okay, now we will return to the reports section of our agenda, and we'll pick up with committee and staff report item A, our governance committee report. I'll turn it over to Ms. McMurrow, who is the chair of the governance committee. Ms. McMurrow.
Thank you, President Chapa. This is a very short committee report because our committee met on January 9th, and the 2 items on the agenda were legislative topics, which David Anderson covered in depth, and the academic calendar update, which we just adopted. But I did want to note that on January 24th, our committee is very excited for the opportunity to meet with our local delegation. The meeting was originally scheduled for last Friday, which turned into an inclement weather day, and we just really preferred an in-person meeting with some FaceTime with each member of our delegation. So we decided, instead of a call, instead of something like that, the day before they were going, or 2 days before the session began, we just got on their calendars for January 24th for some FaceTime, and we already have some RSVPs. So we're very excited about that. And that's really all. Ms. Haynes, Ms. Fowler, am I missing anything? Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. McMurrow. We'll now move on to report item B, which is a report from our Finance and Academics Committee chaired by Ms. Richardson. Ms. Richardson.
Finance and Academics Committee is staffed by David Wilbanks and Vice President Sarah McMurrow and myself. we were able to meet with our Chief Financial Officer, Darla Moss, to listen to different budget strategies and what the team is working together to work on our budget deficit that we have, and they are making tremendous strides and progress, and we are thrilled with all the work that they have put together, but mainly wanted to highlight the collaboration that they are doing between departments to make sure these cuts happen and that we end up where we need to be as a district. Dr. Wirtz provided a classroom library guidance update for us to align, to let us know where we're aligned with House Bill 900 standards and make sure we were up to date on that. So we were short and sweet and good updates all around. Did I miss anything? Okay.
All right, thank you, Ms. Richardson. We'll now move on to report item C, our mid-year academic progress report. Dr. Smith.
Yes, I'm glad to welcome Dr. Natalie Lopez up, and I think Dr. Wirtz is going to come up as well. I wanted to make sure our board knew as a whole, you see this is a mid-year academic progress report. We wanted to start moving away from it just saying things like House Bill 3 updates, et cetera. So this is where you're going to get some of our CA data and talk to you a little bit about how we're progressing toward the goals that you have adopted as a board.
All right, President Chapa, members of the board, and Dr. Smith, thank you. This is the mid-year academic progress report. So purpose of this presentation is to provide an update on our academic performance, literacy, and math performance based on our first curriculum assessment, which took place the first 2 weeks of November, as those relate to our House Bill 3 goals, and then also give you an update on our district improvement plan performance objectives. So for the House Bill 3 portion, I'll give you the update on our third grade. So for our third grade reading results, those are broken into approaches, meets, and masters. As you know, we set those levels on our curriculum assessments. Our goal is to go from, at the approaches level or more, 62 to 65, for meets, 36 to 39, and for masters, 13 to 15. So you can see there for third grade reading, we went up from 62 to 64 on CA1. At the approaches or better, so 1 point from our goal that we'd like to reach by the end of the year. The meets level, or meets or above, we dropped 2 from 36 to 34, so we need to gain 5% when it comes to the actual STAR test coming up in April. And then from the master's level, remained at that 13%, so need to increase by 2% at the master's level. And those results are broken down by the student group, so all student through our racial categories and then through our programs. Just want to point out our SPED current students are on CA1 reached all of their goals all the way across for approaches, meets, and masters. So wanted to acknowledge that performance. I'll move now into third grade math. The goal there for approaches or more is 63 to 67. Meets or more, it's 34 to 37, and then masters is 11 to 14. So for CA1, we had a dip from 63 to 60% at approaches or more. Also a slight dip in meets from 34 to 32. And then masters had a larger increase there. We went from 11 to 14, which is what we wanted to do by the end of the year. And so reaching that master's goal on CA1, I'd like to see that happen also on the STAR test in May. And then our third grade math results are broken down by student group there. So you can see that hitting that master's level overall, a lot of that green is in that master's column for across all the student groups. Moving out of House Bill 3, I'll move into the District Improvement Plan update. This isn't all of the District Improvement Plan performance objectives, just the ones that we can report out on at this point in time. And so our first goal is our overall district reading. That's going to include grades 3 through English 2. And so that goal for approaches or better is to go from 70 to 72. We dipped a little there from 70 down to 68. For meets, or more, want to go from 45 to 46. Also had a 2% dip there from 45 to 43. And then for the master's level, wanting to go from 15 to 17, and we maintained at 15%. And you can see that overall district reading, so all grades 3 through English 2, broken down by subgroup, approaches, meets, and masters. So most of those are within 5%. And that, I mean, obviously that corresponds to, you know, the overall value. We were within 5% of our goals. So that kind of trickles over into all the different student groups. I'll now move to goal 2, which is our overall district math, and we wanted to go from 64 to 70% in approaches or more, and I mean just a slight dip from 64 to 63% there. For meets or more, wanted to go from 34 to 37, and also a slight dip, 34 to 33. And then for our masters, wanting to go from 12 to 13, we've exceeded that so far, hitting 14% on CA1. Now, again, we want to, we want this to, performance isn't going to necessarily be linear across all those standards. So this is just at that moment in time. So when I break that out by subgroup, we can see that approach is where we need more of that growth. There's a lot of that red across those subgroups, more of the yellow in that meets because we're closer to that goal, and then masters is a lot of green all the way across all the subgroups. I'll move into overall district science. So for approaches or better, 64 to 70, we had a dip in science from 64 to 60%. So we got 10 percentage points to gain. By the STAR test here in a couple months. From meets, wanting to go from 33 to 37, meets or above, and a dip there also from 33 to 31. And then from masters, wanting to go from 9 to 12 and had a 1% increase from 9 to 10. And those are our science results, 5th, 8th, and biology, broken out by subgroup. Moving now to goal 4, which is college, career, and military readiness, and that goal is to go from 87 to 90% in our CCMR point acquisition by the end of the year. And right now we're at 68% towards our goal. Around this time last year, and when we did this presentation last year, we were at 69%. We're kind of on a similar track. And this data is as of December 20th. So the CA data was November. CCMR data was pulled right at the end of the semester. And then for attendance, we're wanting to go from 93 to 94% this year. And as of December 20th, when we pulled the data, we were at 93.9. So just slightly under where we want to be for the end of the year. I'll now move over into response data and allow Dr. Beal to come to the podium.
Good evening, President Chapa, Dr. Smith, and members of the board. Tonight we're going to talk about how we're responding to this data that we have. So we broke it down into 2 parts. One is the district response, and then the other is the campus response. So first of all, our curriculum instruction department has really been working to align the resources and make some refinements to our curriculum documents to make it more user-friendly for our teachers. We want that planning process to be as streamlined as possible so they can really focus on how to execute the instruction in the classroom and spend their energies there. The other has been our curriculum and instruction department, our executive directors, and our principals, instructional coaches at each of our campuses. They've started to sit down and really think about the data and what gap is there and what support would look like. And so we've started with a group of our highest needs schools that have some of the most challenges with their data to really align the support. For instance, if that campus is needing additional coaching support or some planning support in a PLC for teachers or for new teachers, or maybe even professional learning at the campus so the teachers don't have to leave, we can go in and really target that support and respond much faster to them. So we have our first group of campuses where we've developed these, and we will continue to monitor and make sure that that support is of high quality and that it continues to meet the needs of those campuses. We will continue to monitor the data and expand that group as we're able to do so. We also have support for our instructional leaders at our campus. We know, and I'm so glad we were talking about the calendar, because professional development is really at the root of some of the challenges we have. And this year we have embedded a continuous learning strand for our leaders during ILA. And we've also invited their instructional coaches to come with their principals on occasion so that they're learning together and can take that back to the campus. We've focused on the instructional core this year. We've had sessions on science and also on writing, because we know those are two of the real challenging areas for us. And so we will continue to provide that type of professional learning for our leaders so that they can go back and lead the change on their campus. We also have continued to have our discipline committee meet and provide just guidance on what the highest priority work is, and make sure that we're getting feedback from our teachers and our teacher focus groups around discipline, because while that isn't the academic data, we know that the behavior in the classroom and the distraction that sometimes that can cause for a teacher really does impact that. So we see that support together. And then at the campus level, coming off the back of our academic conferences today, they were really, really good, and it really aligns with this. We got a lot of really good feedback, and our campuses are working very hard. I know our teachers are, and our principals are, and all of the instructional staff. They're doing a lot of data reviews, and I'll tell you, one of the biggest shifts that I've seen is that data all the way down to the student level. And many, many of our campuses are even implementing student data conferences, where our students really understand what their target goals are. We call them their WIGs, their wildly important goals, instead of their PIGs, which are their pretty important goals. And so even our students are starting to catch on that. So they know the target that they're headed to, and it's down to that student level. We're also really focusing on our small group accelerated instruction, and we're monitoring that very closely. For all of our students who haven't been as successful in the past, we want to understand where their learning gap is and provide small group specific instruction for them. So we do have a way of monitoring that at the campus level, and then also from the district level, to ensure that all of our students are getting those services. We've also really worked this year on elementary scheduling to ensure that we're getting the required minutes, or the suggested minutes, in math and our reading block, and that we'll also have that science block in there, because the good instruction starts with a great schedule that allows the teachers to provide that Tier 1 instruction. And then also to have the time to provide the interventions as well during the school day. So the master schedules this year also include at every one of our campus the intervention and the enrichment blocks. So our students who need to push, and I was glad to see that we were seeing some of those master's levels go up, as well as our students who may need to close some of those academic gaps. We've also focused on implementation of best practices in writing. That's been a real challenge as we've kind of shifted how writing is taught and how students respond to that. And so we've really focused on our instructional leaders on the campus understanding what that shift looks like and how they can carry it back to the campus to really help work with teachers in PLCs and through professional development, and that they're able to give that quality feedback. I know that the professional learning department has really been working with our instructional coaches, and the learning that they're getting is paralleling what our principals are getting, so that as a team, we're providing really good quality feedback, because it's been a shift. It's been a change for our teachers. We also have been progress monitoring our students. We talked a little bit about that with the student goal setting. But our campuses, I think, really, what I've seen, we've focused on DDI for quite some time. DDI is looking at the data. The biggest shift that I see, and I think I'm really most proud of this year, is the move from taking the data from numbers to what does it mean in the classroom? What does it look like when I'm working with students, providing interventions for students, pulling my small groups? We're really seeing the implementation of the data and the teachers really being able to own it authentically in their classroom. So I'm proud of that. They're monitoring a lot of different things from our academic data to our CCMR, attendance, discipline. We have that monitored for every one of our campuses. And then also with January 7th, we have every staff member now has received 2 days of training on the science of behavior and behavioral supports, and we're really starting to see some traction there. It's not a flip of a light switch as I wish it would be, but we know that we're really helping to build capacity all the way down to the teacher level through our administrators on the campus, and we're seeing that show up in our data. District-wide. So we're really proud of that, and we'll continue to focus on each of these areas in response to the data. All right. With that, we'll open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Buell, Dr. Lopez.
Yes.
Dr. Wirtz. Doctor. Are there any trustees with comments or questions? Ms. Fowler.
Thank you, President Chapa. I've been concerned about student discipline for quite a while. I hear from a lot of teachers, I hear from parents, I've heard from students. When you talk about having a district discipline committee, who is that made up of?
I wish I had the list right now because I won't be able to come up with all of them, but we have over, I would say probably around 25, if I had to say. We have central office, we have principals on there. We have a teacher focus group that we've met with. We did a principal focus group. The central office it's across, it is our PBIS, restorative practices. Dr. Lopez is on there. I'm on there. We have representative EDs on there. We have representation from curriculum instruction, guidance and counseling, our MTSS department. We've got a pretty big group of people that are committed to meet and provide feedback to our action plan that is designed to achieve our board goal and our DIP strategy.
Well, I want to make sure, and no disrespect, but I think you need to make sure that there's a lot of teachers, the ones that are dealing with that discipline every single day. I mean, those in administration, no disrespect, but you're more removed than the teachers are. They deal with that discipline stuff every single day. And so I want to make sure that you're really focusing and hearing from the teachers and all different levels. I hear more about discipline problems in high school, but I know there are problems in elementaries as well as the junior high. But I just think discipline or lack of discipline is really a problem. And I think that is what is driving some of our teachers to leave the profession. And unfortunately, I think that we may see some students leave when the vouchers pass. And I think, I don't know what we can do, but I think discipline is a big part that's driving the teachers out and will drive the students out. I don't have the answer, but I think we need to listen to our teachers that live that every single day, what's working and what's not working. And we need to come up with a plan, because what we're doing is not working. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mike?
Dr. Buell, Dr. Lopez, Dr. Wirtz, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. There's several ways that we can look at this data. And the way that I'd like to look at it, right, is I hear about the data-driven I hear needs-driven, targeted support, addressing behavior. And, we may not be meeting some goals at this point, but if I can use analogies because I love analogies, we have a new head coach. And as with anyone who watches an NFL team, you know that a new head coach means a rebuilding period. And no one expects you to make it to the playoffs that first year, unless you're the Commanders. But we also have to look at what's working in the background, right? We've talked about a curriculum audit that will look at our curriculum and maybe identify some gaps that will be able to help us get the scores that we want. We've gone through a workshop where we're looking at the whole needs of the child and the different external factors that affect their performance. But we're really focusing on the needs of these campuses. And so, contrary to what may have been done in the past where everything's divvied out equally, we're focusing directly on the impact. And I think that's going to affect the scores. So for those who are, and I know I keep pointing to people who are watching, because I want the community to understand, especially for those who like to write on social media and say that we aren't doing anything. We are doing something. Sure. The admin who they say we shouldn't have all these admin, they are doing something. You guys are getting paid to do a job and you are doing it. So I just want that out there for everyone to see and put it on record. You even look tonight, the calendar that was put forth. I mean, it's total rebrand, and there are things that we're not used to seeing, but it's based off of feedback and the needs of the teachers and the students in the community. So yeah, this is a rebuilding year, but I think with all the good things that are happening in the background, and once we get those into place, it's going to make a change. Now, is it going to be super quick, fast? No. We're dealing with a huge behemoth that's been around for years, but it's slow and steady, and I think the community needs to understand that there are things that are working, and if they have questions, they can talk to any one of us. They can reach out to admin, but they know that we're working, and yeah, I think we're going to do good.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Any other trustees with comments or questions? I just have something that came up there. Ms. Fowler's comments made me have a couple questions there. On campuses receiving training and support to promote positive student behavior, I just want to make sure that there was a discussion last year with, as our federal funding from COVID ran out, there were some positions related to restorative practices, and we retained those positions, not all of them, but we retained some of them, correct?
Yeah. And I guess I should have spoken to that too, but I'm super proud of the work. We have brought the PBIS and restorative practices team together. So they now work in tandem and spend the majority of their time on campuses in support of behavior. And I would say, I don't sit and analyze their time, but I bet it's greater than 90% of their time is in direct support of the campuses. It's one of the things I keep getting really good feedback on. In fact, it came up a number of times in the academic conferences even today as being something that was very, very positive. So our PBIS and restorative practice coaches are out on campuses, and they have assigned campuses. And so they work with the principals to determine what are the priority needs on your campus. And it may be a couple of new teachers or bridge teachers that just need support, or just some challenging behaviors that are out there. We try to keep them in a capacity building mode. In other words, we don't have enough people to go take over, but when they come out, we're training them to go out and build the capacity so that when they can pull back, someone feels like, okay, I've got the tools in my toolkit to be successful with this. And I think that has been a big contributor to the success in our discipline. We know that in all but one of our campuses, which is Turning Point, we've had a significant reduction in behavior this year. Most of the campuses are sitting at around 50% reduction from last year. It's pretty significant. We know it's not where it needs to be, but we have to look for some of those early indicators of success to know we're on the right trajectory. Every one of our campuses now has a behavior support plan, and that was developed with the principal, some of the instructional team members that may have been like the assistant principal, depending, either a restorative practice specialist or our PBIS specialist and the executive director, and they sat down and talked about what does your campus need, and let's look at the data. And so the support that was developed is really done side to side, elbow to elbow with the campus. If they're having difficulty getting their PBIS team off the ground, there's going to be somebody there with you at every one of the meetings, not to tell you what to do, but to coach you into how do we look at this data? How do we think about what the decisions are that will actually improve behavior? So that's a level of support we've never really been able to have before, and I'm super proud of it. We will continue to monitor that. I know just yesterday we had our team meeting with the PBIS and the restorative practice specialist, and we pulled out every one of them pulled out one plan to talk about kind of as a case study and how we would coach this to give them even better support. And we talked about what are the lead indicators that will show that you're having success on that campus. And next time we come, we're going to go back and look at that data. So we really want to make sure that these aren't plans that are filed away. We will be looking at those every week. We will be, our executive directors, touching base with principals. How's it going? Because we can make mid-course adjustments on those plans. But we have a roadmap to help each individual campus. We wish we had more, but what I can say is I believe that the support we have leveraged it to help kids and to help our teachers on each one of our campuses.
Thank you, Dr. Buell. And you actually anticipated my next question, which is on the volume of disciplinary incidents. You know, we had I think towards the end of last year, we had a pretty substantial presentation on it. We had one earlier last semester that was a little bit different, but on the same topic of student behavior. And I know we, like pretty much every other district in the country, experienced a significant uptick in disciplinary incidences when we came back from COVID. Mm-hmm. We were never really out, but when we fully resumed. But my understanding is that had been coming down pretty substantially. Mm-hmm. And so thank you for putting out there that trajectory had continued, because I know we hadn't had an update sort of specifically on numbers since last semester. So I was curious, given the changes we made with the restorative practices, that trajectory was still on a downward slope. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yes.
I don't see any other trustees with questions, and I don't have any other ones either. So
thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
We'll now move on to our last report for the evening. It's item D, a 2019 bond update report. And I see that Mr. Horn's already working his way down here. So I will just turn it over to Mr. Horn.
Okay. President Chopra, members of the board, Dr. Smith, thank you for allowing me to give you an update this evening. You'll see tonight that we've had a little bit of movement from the last time I presented. And so are we ready, Frank? Let's see if I can jump in there. Okay, there we go. Of course, we always start with this slide. I won't spend much time here, but just to, again, to calibrate where we are with the dollars that are allocated to each area. We have a little bit of a change here. And I'll point to, I won't go through all the numbers because you'll see those further in, but if you'll look down what we call below the line, you'll see below your totals, you'll see the bond issuance costs, and then a new area that we've added, projected interest arbitrage liability. And that's a pretty significant number, just better than $20 million, almost $21 million. We added that in because we now are beginning to get numbers on what that arbitrage rebate may be as we move forward. And so rather than leave a substantial sum or in that interest and additional proceeds area, and leaving you with the idea that money, there's a large sum of money there to be spent later on. We wanted to make sure to begin to start to include the liability that we may have with the arbitrage rebate. We talked about that before. We've had George Williford here to explain that while that is a big negative number, it's not a bad thing, remember, because we've invested our money well over the years, and so we've invested it so well that we may have to rebate some of that back. And that's the worst case scenario that we have right now, and that's over multiple issuances, as we call them, right? Whether it's the first issuance we had in the 19 bond, or the second issuance, or and we may even have the same sort of thing relative to the February issuance that we're planning to bring to you soon. But that number will fluctuate based on how much interest we earn. Ms. Moss and the finance team have worked with George to make sure that we are mitigating that rebate in the future as well, with various options for investment. But we wanted to begin to show you that, and so that number may go up and down a bit over time. But we want to make sure that we don't spend our interest earnings until the very end, so that we can make sure we cover whatever rebate that may be. But then we bring you an accurate number later on for you to begin to look at and determine how you want to spend. So just keep that in mind. We'll continue to show that as we go forward, but I wanted to bring you in the know on why we added that number, okay? And then jump into this. We are just, like I mentioned, we're about to bring you soon. Hopefully we'll issue the last phase of our bond dollars in February, and that'll come to you for approval later. But we've had some pretty significant movement in the amount of money that has been encumbered. In the facility side, the available portion of 14% will be bringing you a project in February to approve, and that's the Transportation, Health Services, and Security Center build, and that will use up most of that available, and that 19% that you see that's remaining is what we plan to issue in February, and that'll open the door for us to begin our Phase 4 and Phase 5 work, of which we're in the process of gathering architect fees at this point to bring to you later for approval, so that we can hit the ground running as soon as those funds are available. There's been a little bit of a change here in the number of projects going on. We've closed out quite a few projects since we began, but as you can see, we have a large sum of projects in the planning stage. A lot of those are in our Phase 4 work. We've already started with the architects, at least to begin, again, getting ready to move forward on that. And as well, there's also some Phase 3 projects in there that we have going. Here we have Bowie and Seguin in design. I've mentioned this to you before. Those are wrapping up quickly. Primarily, the two projects are sitting in the permitting stage with the city. So as soon as we get those out of permitting, we'll get those ready for bid, and then those will move over to construction, and all of our Phase 1 projects will be in moving forward. I'll show you some pictures of Glaspie and Martin here shortly, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about those now. The rendering for Glaspie, we always bring this to you first so you have an idea of what to expect. But if you've driven by recently, and this is a couple of weeks ago now, so Ryan Pierce takes the photos for me, does a great job, but you can see significant progress now coming out of the ground with the steel at the Glaspie Field site. And so that is the home side press box that you see there with the block wall behind it, the neighborhood just to the due west. The Band Hall addition, many of you came to Arlington High School recently when they had the first look opportunity, when Principal Humbles put that on for us, and you got a chance to see the interior of the new Band Hall at Arlington High. This again will look very much the same. It's the same architect, and they are both designed against the same TEA ed spec, so it'll be of similar size and similar amenities, but they've made tremendous progress, as you can see, bringing that out of the ground and getting that ready for completion. In our Phase 2, Wildman Field is there, but that particular project, it's about timing. We're getting ready to put that out to bid now with Craven, so that we can begin that work as soon as we feel certain that Glassby will complete on the time frame that we set forward. And so we're going to try to accelerate that as much as possible so that we can get all of these fields completed and get the kids competing on our campuses and reduce the expense we have with off-site facilities. In the construction category here, you've seen, again, the work at Arlington High School and with the Fine Arts and Dual Language Academy that we have there. That project is in the closeout stage. We're bringing it to the closeout stage. We'll finish up our punch list items, and then it'll be in closeout in earnest. Same thing with Bailey, the same thing with Duff. Atherton, Foster, and Johns are still actively in construction and about probably a third of the way through the process at this point. And then Sam Houston, I'll show you some photos in a minute. We're wrapping that up quickly. Again, the rendering for Arlington High School is shown here, but when you were out there the other day, you got a chance to see it wrapped up pretty well. Just minor things that we have to do in the way of punch lists and completion of a few tasks, but a beautiful new addition to that campus. And if you didn't get a chance to see it, let me know, and we'll be happy to go by and you can see it again. But it's an awesome look. Another look from the Park Row side, some of the landscaping that is along that particular side of the addition. And then again, the look on the interior of the library, just an awesome new look, and we're so excited for the library. And she was probably one of our most challenging obstacles, I'll say, during the process, was she really was nervous about what this might become. But Melody and I toured with her, and I think you'd agree she was pretty excited, wasn't she? So we're excited that she's happy about it. And then again, look into the new band hall. Not quite the way it looked when we came through, right? They were just moving things in, getting ready to set up trophies and stuff. But again, a beautiful new band hall for Arlington High School. And again, I should say that really sets the standard going forward for our new band halls that we'll build in the future. And a look at the Arlington High softball field again. I wished I could show you here. We had a little different perspective, but we have lights at this field now, and so that again also was a part of the whole process that we went through with Martin High School and with Workman Field to get the new LED lights and to work with the city to let them see what LED lighting could do, and the fact that we wouldn't necessarily impede upon the neighborhoods around us with light spillage and that sort of thing. So we're really excited about that. We should be able to continue to move forward and put lights on all of our athletic fields now. And then looking into Duff, the pictures I've showed you before didn't show you the library moved into and really looking like what a library should look like. We're going to get a chance to see that at the next CBOC meeting, which is next week. We're going to Duff, and so we'll be able to see that library in person, but I'm really excited, and they should be really close to wrapping up the gymnasium as well. We've seen the pictures of the Bowie and Seguin track and field additions. I'll probably drop that off next time through, and hopefully we'll begin to be able to start showing you some progress photos of Bowie and Seguin relative to the softball fields. And I talked about Sam Houston. I would show you a new photo. So if you remember last time you saw the library, it was totally destructed. And the roof, we had taken the roof off and so forth. The new roof is in place. They have all new ceilings and lighting, and that library has seen a much needed improvement. So we're really excited about what's taking place there at Sam Houston. And of course, probably the final time that I'll show you the look at Bailey, but a really significant project at an older campus to really bring new life there. And so we're really excited about how that completed. And we've done a last little bit up front with the sidewalk addition that we had to change after our first visit there recently. And of course, you've seen what the cafeteria and the kitchen look like. We're super excited about that. I know Mr. Lewis is excited about this and the future of our kitchens in Arlington. Phase 3, Amos and Goodman have been bid, and we'll be bringing that one to you soon for your approval so that we can move forward with that. I mentioned Cravens will also be in the bidding process with Wildman, and we're getting ready to bid Lamar at this time also. So hopefully all of our Phase 3 will begin will be moved over into construction the next time I give you a report. And then some of those in construction will be moving closer towards completion and closeout. You'll see a picture or two of Rodriguez here in just a bit, but that project is moving along as expected, and that will open in August. And then those other projects that you see there, in particular Little and Spear, are mostly renovations, but at Miller, Key, and Pope, we have gymnasium and storm shelter additions, so we'll begin to start bringing you pictures of those soon as well. Again, the rendering for Joey Rodriguez Junior High School, and again, what it looks like about 2 weeks ago. So they're nearing what we call a dried-in phase. So the roof is on the building. Most all of the windows and doors are in place. Mr. Parkos tells me that probably next week we'll have it dried in, and then it'll really begin to fly, because they'll be able to begin the work inside that requires us to have a conditioned space. So when you start to put your flooring in, your ceilings in, and things like that, you have to have a conditioned space so that we can acclimate those materials. And so it'll really begin to accelerate. It'll start to look a little cleaner, because a lot of the masonry will start to become complete over the next few weeks. And masonry is a dirty part of the process, but once we get that behind us and we can begin to clean up the site, it's going to start to look more and more like a finished junior high school as we get closer to the end of spring. I talked a little bit about Pope and Key. You can see their new gymnasium and storm shelter additions. Those are moving along quickly. A lot of that has to do with the type of construction it is, but this is just like we have at Jones and Crow and others. So just another couple of projects where we're replacing those older, smaller gymnasiums with the newer standard. Our Phase 4 projects, I mentioned a minute ago about those. We have quite a few of those in planning, but we also have a number of those that are started. We're in the bidding process for Diapert. The service center was bid, and we'll be bringing that to you for your acceptance of that shortly, so that we can begin that work. I would imagine we'll start that process of mobilization and construction the 1st of March. And so we'll have kickoff meetings with Dr. Hill and his teams that will be in that, and it's going to be a rough one. It's going to be a huge impact on our service center. It'll require a lot of moving around in the way of buses and other services, but we'll be up for the task, and we'll make it as painless as possible. But we're excited about that addition. And then these other projects that are in the planning stage, those, as I mentioned a minute ago, we're working with the architects to retrieve their fees so we can bring that to you for approval, so that we can get that design started on that. And right on the heels of that, we'll be bringing you our Phase 5 projects. You see some of those, there are projects in Phase 4 and 5 that are in construction, and a lot of what that involves is, and I can take you down the list there, but when you've been out to the PDC, you've noticed a lot of work that we've done. A lot of it's been done, contracted in-house by our own team. We had dollars available up front in some of the early phases, and we had a real need, if you remember, going to the PDC with the way the foundation was collapsing on us. We've been working on it for years, so we just needed to go in and tear that down completely and start again. And so we had meetings during that time. Many of you were going in and out, and so you got to see that work completed. But we do that sometimes. We call those pull-out projects, right? We pull that work forward because it's so critical. Owsley, for example, was a failure of the chiller system. We had it in the bond to replace, but we didn't quite make it where we wanted to. We ran short by a year, so we had to accelerate those chiller replacements. And so same with West, and the same with Ferguson. So those projects, we just accelerated them forward. We moved their money forward, and we moved some other projects back, is what we did, to make sure we could do that. So it happens. You have to do that once in a while in the process. But so some of the projects in Phase 4 and 5 will be complete earlier, much earlier than we anticipated. Sorry, this is a little smaller than I normally make it. I apologize. I realized that when I was looking at it. The two numbers, though, to really look at, right, is the commitment, number one, just a bit over 23, almost 24%, but then the accomplished number, which is about almost 26% at this point. So Mr. Parkos and his team have done a great job. They continue to make sure that the contractors are quantifying who they're using in the way of hub vendors, and making sure that's in the contract up front when we award that contract. So they're doing a really great job, and so we're pushing hard. We're trying to get as close as we can to 30%. So hopefully we can bring that up even more. I'm going to dig in, but this will be quick, and hopefully in the next report I make, I'd like to bring or invite Dr. Upchurch to come up and give you a little bit more detail on what he's done, because a lot of what we've done so far with fine arts, transportation, and our security and technology parts of the bond, they're wrapping up. If you notice, there's a significant amount of what they had that's expended, and so in that available portion for fine arts, I know when I spoke to Dr. Anderson, he's moving quickly to get his POs in place, so that will probably be spent in short order. So we'll start to see those groups will finish up their portion of the bond much quicker, obviously, than we do in the facility side, but that's pretty well normal for it. So I would expect that they'll have most of that encumbered by the time we report through the spring and into the final report for the year. The same with safety, security, and technology. And again, Dr. Upchurch will come up with me next time in April, and he'll give you a deeper dive into what's taken place over the entirety of the technology portion of the 2019 bond program. But you can see, again, much like with our fine arts, they're about 75% expended, a little bit of it encumbered, but I know that a big portion of what he has available is going to actually go towards the new transportation and health services and security center, because we've not talked a lot about that, but you have seen, and you may remember when we presented that will house our secondary network operations center. So if you remember, it's really critical, and I'll let Dr. Upchurch talk about this when he comes up in our next meeting, but it's really critical to have that secondary knock, right? Because if something were to happen to our primary, which is at the CTC, you want to have that redundancy. And he's talked a lot about redundancy relative to the network that's been looped around our district now. So I'll let him talk more about that when he comes up, but a big portion of that is in that available portion that he has there. So I know his number will begin to move more towards the encumbered as we go forward as well. And then finally, transportation. This has been a pretty big jump, and I apologize. When we did we put the presentation in, if you notice where it says encumbered in the chart, it's a little off, but you understand what that is. But there's a big portion of their dollars that have been encumbered, and I've talked to Jason, and he's moving quickly to continue to buy the white fleet vehicles and so forth. So their available amount will continue to shrink, and more of it will move to the expended encumbered area. And with that, I'll leave it for any discussion you might have or questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Horn.
Yes, sir.
Trustees with comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I just had one question.
Yes, sir.
On the Wildman is in bidding, what are the sort of specifications being used as part of that bidding process? Is it substantially similar to what was used for Glassby to go out for bid?
Absolutely the same, yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's the only question I have. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll move on now to the consent agenda portion of our meeting. Any trustees with pulls from consent agenda tonight? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Wilbanks. Do I have a second? Second from Ms. Fowler. It's a motion by Mr. Wilbanks and a second by Ms. Fowler. We'll move on to vote. All right, consent passes unanimously, 7-0. We'll now move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Smith.
So this is a little awkward, but we've talked about almost everything that I have in my superintendent's report tonight. So we're going to kind of fly through things, but I'm going to go off script at the beginning, just real briefly. First, I neglected my duty as a superintendent last month, and I don't know whether I was dazed or something at the end of the meeting, but I didn't realize that we were at a spot where I didn't have an opportunity to say a thank you to our leaders in the system and our staff. As we closed out the holiday season, I reflected a lot on what's great about Arlington ISD. And I am truly blessed on a daily basis to work with the people that are in this room. You see the talent that comes up to the podium and presents. You hear the work that's going into things like a calendar, and that calendar matters for the student learning that you want to see in the system. You see the effort that's going on a regular basis from our teachers in the classroom and the work that they do. And I am so grateful, and I should have said it in the holiday season, but I'm so grateful for the staff and the team that's in this room, especially in the work that they do on a regular basis, and I wanted to make sure I said that. The second thing I wanted to cover is that I didn't get the microphone when it was board appreciation. It was like a mob up there because y'all are celebrities or something. I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning, and I was thinking, why am I awake at 4 a.m. this morning? And I can say this, and I can say it with the utmost certainty, it's not because of anything with this board. I am so thankful for the work that you do and proud of this board. Just down the road, we know that boards don't function the same way this one does. And I'm so grateful for your leadership, because board leadership matters for high-performing school districts. The stability of this board and the leadership of this board matter to me. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the work that you do and the effort that you put in. And I'm thankful for the stability that we have in Arlington ISD, because it makes a difference for our kids. David Anderson said to me standing in the back when we were on, I think Justin called it a hiatus or a break or something. I didn't hear what that was earlier. But David Anderson said, you know, not every school district is like this. You all do this right. And when we have that many people here celebrating the great work that's happening in the school district, it is because of your leadership as a board and because of the stability of this board. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for dedicating your work to for the benefit of our students. You'll see in my report, I'm not joking, that I think everything was covered. I was going to give you an update on safety and discipline, and Christy kind of did that. And when she was up here, I was going to make sure that you knew that we hit that target by January 1st. You're going to get an update in a presentation coming up there about what those behavior support plans are and how they're working in our system. So all this stuff is coming, and obviously you see we have another key progress measure there. I was going to talk about some of our bond projects like Arlington High School and the great things that are happening there. And when I think about the things that I saw in my tour there and what I'm hearing there, each and every student has the ability to experience that expansion and that upgrade at Arlington High School. And I'm so grateful for the work that's happening. You can see all the smiling faces. I will concur with Kelly. I may have had my ear bent a little bit about the library when we were under construction. And then the other day, I heard how amazing that library was. So it's great to see the work come to fruition and to hear from our staff how much they appreciate that. And I was going to talk a little bit about Glaspie Field, and I think Kelly obviously knows a whole lot more than I do about that. But finally, I did want to note this. It was about 10 years ago, I believe, that Corey and Jones opened up as fine arts and dual language academies. I didn't get a chance to say this at the December meeting, but recently we had 59 of our students that have participated in our fine arts and dual language academies were awarded the Global Seal of Biliteracy. And if we really talk about college, career, military readiness, think about the upper hand that we are giving our students that are earning a seal of biliteracy when they're entering their freshman year of high school. Like, that is unbelievable in the skills that they have when they're going to be able to leave high school, the content that they'll know, but the skills that they have, and to truly be able to be bilingual and biliterate is going to give them a leg up on everybody around. And that is something truly to applaud in Arlington ISD. So with that, that concludes my superintendent's report. Next month, I'll try not to cover things that have already been covered in the meeting. I appreciate you all a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Trustees with reports this evening. Seeing none. Ms. Richardson, do we have anything to report?
We do not.
Having no secretary's report and all items being concluded, it is 9:55 and this meeting is adjourned.